1903, the first ever World Series. For the first time, the two major leagues, the American League (AL) and the National League (NL), agreed to hold a world championship to determine baseball's best team. The Boston Americans, later the Red Sox, represented the AL and faced the Pittsburgh Pirates of the NL in a best-of-9 series. The Pirates jumped to a 3-1 lead, powered by Honus Wagner and pitcher Deacon Felipe, but Boston staged a dramatic comeback, winning 4 straight to take the series 5-3. Cy Young and Bill Dineen won 2 and 3 games respectively, helping Boston become the first World Series champions in MLB history. This series officially marked the birth of the modern World Series. 1904, no World Series held. The New York Giants, NL, refused to play the Boston Americans, AL, claiming the AL was still too new and not worthy. Giants manager John McGraw famously declared they had nothing to prove, sparking outrage from fans and the press. The decision led to widespread disappointment and prompted MLB to revise its rules. Starting the following year, the World Series became mandatory once league champions were decided. The 1904 season became a historical void between two landmark series. 1905, New York Giants. The Giants faced the Philadelphia Athletics and convincingly won the series 4-1, earning their first title. Christy Mathewson delivered one of the greatest pitching performances in history, throwing 3 consecutive shutouts, allowing no runs across 27 innings, just 14 hits, and no errors. That feat remains unmatched in any World Series. With support from fellow pitcher Joe McGinnity and a steady offense, the Giants dominated the series. After the controversy of 1904, this victory firmly reasserted the NL's legitimacy. 1906, Chicago White Sox. In one of the biggest upsets in MLB history, the White Sox, nicknamed the Hitless Wonders due to their weak offense, beat the powerhouse Chicago Cubs, who had won 116 games in the regular season. This all-Chicago matchup showcased a stark contrast: the Cubs' explosive offense versus the White Sox's small ball tactics and airtight defense. Relying on bunts, sacrifices, and sharp fielding, the White Sox prevailed 4-2 despite batting just .198 for the series. It was the franchise's first World Series title. 1907, Chicago Cubs. After a stunning loss the previous year, the Cubs stormed back to sweep the Detroit Tigers 4-0, with one tie due to darkness. Their pitching staff, led by Mordecai Three-Finger Brown, shut down the Tigers' offense. Ty Cobb made his World Series debut, but couldn't deliver a single win for Detroit. The Cubs showcased a complete game built on speed, fundamentals, and discipline. This was their first championship in their storied history. 1908, Chicago Cubs. The Cubs proved their dominance again by defeating the Tigers for a second straight year, this time 4-1. Mordecai Brown and Orval Overall anchored a formidable pitching rotation, while hitters like Joe Tinker and Frank Chance applied constant pressure. Ty Cobb once again fell short in his quest to lead Detroit to a title. The 1908 series cemented the Cubs as the premier team of the early 20th century and marked their last championship win for 108 years. 1909, Pittsburgh Pirates. Honus Wagner finally captured his championship ring as the Pirates defeated the Tigers 4-3. The series was decided in Game 7, where Pittsburgh crushed Detroit 8-0. Wagner hit .333 and stole 6 bases, outshining Ty Cobb in a much-hyped personal duel. The Pirates' pitching staff held the Tigers to fewer than 2 runs in 4 games. This marked the first World Series ever to go the full 7 games. 1910, Philadelphia Athletics. The Athletics beat the Cubs 4-1 behind a balanced roster and outstanding pitching. Jack Coombs won 3 games, including a 13-inning marathon in Game 3. With Frank Home Run Baker and manager Connie Mack leading a steady offense, the A's controlled the series from start to finish, losing only 1 close game. This victory launched the beginning of a great dynasty under Mack's leadership. 1911, Philadelphia Athletics. The Athletics successfully defended their title by defeating the New York Giants 4-2 in what was described as a pitcher's duel series. Chief Bender and Eddie Plank dominated on the mound, and the series was interrupted multiple times by rain, with a 6-day gap between games 3 and 4. Frank Home Run Baker earned his nickname by blasting 2 crucial homers off Christy Mathewson and Rube Marquard. The A's showcased remarkable consistency in both pitching and offense. 1912, Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox claimed their second championship by beating the Giants in a dramatic 7-game series, plus 1 tie, totaling 8 games. Game 8, the deciding 7th, was one of the tensest ever. The Giants led 2-1 in the 10th inning, but made a critical defensive error. Tris Speaker tied the game with a clutch hit, and Larry Gardner's sacrifice fly-sealed a 3-2 victory. 1913, Philadelphia Athletics. The A's extended their golden run by defeating the Giants again, this time 4-1. Their elite pitching trio, Jack Coombs, Eddie Plank, and Chief Bender, was once again dominant. Philadelphia easily won the first 3 games before the Giants managed a single win. Eddie Collins quietly started with key contributions on both offense and defense. It was Connie Mack's 3rd title, cementing his legacy as one of baseball's greatest managers. 1914, Boston Braves. The Braves pulled off one of baseball's greatest upsets, sweeping the heavily favored Philadelphia A's 4-0, after sitting in last place as late as July. They became the first team to win a World Series after being in last place midseason. Bill James and Dick Rudolph each won 2 games, and Boston's offense capitalized on the A's defensive mistakes. Connie Mack, disillusioned by his team's effort, would dismantle the roster afterward. The Miracle Braves became a legendary underdog story. 1915, Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox began a new era of dominance by defeating the Philadelphia Phillies 4-1. This was Babe Ruth's first World Series, though he played a minimal role. Pitchers Ernie Shore, Rube Foster, and Dutch Leonard kept the Phillies in check, as the NL champs relied too heavily on ace Grover Cleveland Alexander. The decisive game was won by a Harry Hooper double in the ninth inning. Boston's young, promising core laid the foundation for a dominant stretch. 1916, Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox continued their reign by defeating the Brooklyn Robins, early Dodgers, 4-1. Babe Ruth made his mark in Game 2, pitching 14 innings while allowing only one run, a World Series record that still stands. Boston's offense wasn't overpowering, but timely hitting and a strong bullpen secured control. After dropping the opener, the Sox won 4 straight. It was their 4th title in 14 years. 1917, Chicago White Sox. The White Sox won their second championship by beating the New York Giants 4-2 with a formula of airtight defense and strong pitching. Eddie Cicotte and Red Faber each won 2 games. Though the Giants had a potent offense, they committed costly errors, especially in Game 6. This would be the White Sox's last title of the 20th century, as scandal loomed ahead. 1918, Boston Red Sox. In a wartime World Series with reduced crowds and media coverage, the Red Sox beat the Chicago Cubs 4-2. Babe Ruth pitched a shutout in Game 1 and extended his World Series scoreless streak to 29.2 innings, a record until 1961. This was Boston's final championship before the infamous Curse of the Bambino, sparked when they sold Ruth to the Yankees. It's also the only World Series to be played entirely in September, i.e. 19. Cincinnati Reds. The Reds beat the White Sox 5-3 in the only best-of-9 World Series, an experiment for commercial reasons. However, the series was marred by the Black Sox scandal, as 8 White Sox players conspired to lose in exchange for gambling payouts. Though Cincinnati performed well, their title remains overshadowed by the controversy. Pitcher Hod Eller won 2 games, and the Reds' offense scored 10-plus runs in the first 2 games. The scandal led to the appointment of MLB's first commissioner to restore the sport's integrity. 1920, Cleveland Indians. The Indians captured their first championship by defeating the Brooklyn Robins 5-2 in a best-of-9 series. The series was full of historic firsts. The first Grand Slam in World Series history, Elmer Smith, the first unassisted triple play, Bill Wambsgans, and the first home run by a pitcher, Jim Bagby Sr. Cleveland dominated behind steady pitching, especially from Stan Kovaleski, who won 3 games. The season was also marked by tragedy, the death of Ray Chapman, after being hit by a pitch, which became a rallying force for the team's emotional triumph. 1921, New York Giants. The Giants defeated the New York Yankees 5-3 in the first ever all-New York City World Series. It was the Yankees' debut in the Fall Classic, led by the powerful presence of Babe Ruth, who unfortunately was hampered by injuries. The Giants capitalized on the Yankees' defensive and pitching miscues, winning the final 3 games in a row. This was also the last World Series played under the best-of-9 format and marked the beginning of the legendary Yankees-Giants rivalry. 1922, New York Giants. The Giants beat the Yankees again, this time in a 4-0 sweep with 1 tie due to darkness. The Giants' pitching dominated, holding the Yankees to a 203 batting average. Babe Ruth struggled and failed to hit a home run throughout the series. This was the second straight year the 2 teams met in the World Series, both sharing the Polo Grounds. It also marked the last time the Yankees played as tenants before building their own stadium. 1923, New York Yankees. The Yankees finally secured their first World Series title after 3 straight appearances, defeating the Giants 4-2 in a tightly contested series. Babe Ruth exploded with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs, delivering when it mattered most. The series also marked the inaugural season of Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, and the title served as a statement of a new dynasty in the making. Pitcher Herb Pennock added 2 key victories to the Yankees' effort. 1924, Washington Senators. The Senators won their only championship before relocating to become the Minnesota Twins, edging the Giants 4-3 in a dramatic series. Game 7 is considered one of the greatest World Series games ever. It ended in the 12th inning with a bad hop single by Earl McNeely. Walter Johnson, then 36, pitched the final 4 scoreless innings in relief after losing his first 2 starts. The championship was a long overdue reward for one of baseball's greatest pitchers and a rare triumph for a historically underachieving team. 1925, Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates staged a thrilling comeback to defeat the Washington Senators in 7 rain-soaked games. Game 7 was played in poor weather, which led to numerous defensive errors by the Senators. Kiki Kyler delivered a clutch double in the 8th inning to give the Pirates a 9-7 lead. Walter Johnson, the hero of 1924, took the loss in his final World Series outing after being overworked earlier in the series. This was the first time in World Series history that a team overcame a 3-1 deficit to win the championship. 1926, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals captured their first World Series title by edging out the Yankees 4-3. The series featured a legendary performance by rookie Pete Alexander, who pitched a complete Game 6, and famously came in as a reliever in Game 7 to strike out Tony Lazzeri with the bases loaded. Babe Ruth hit 3 home runs in Game 4, but the series ended unexpectedly when he was caught stealing second base in the 9th inning of Game 7. It was the Yankees' first loss in a 7-game series and marked the Cardinals' arrival as a new powerhouse in the National League. 1927. New York Yankees. The 1927 Yankees, known as Murderers Row, are often hailed as the greatest baseball team of all time. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-0 with an overwhelming lineup including Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Tony Lazzeri, and Bob Musial. The Yankees dominated every aspect. Ruth hit 2 home runs, Gehrig drove in 7 RBIs, and the pitching staff held the Pirates to under 2 runs per game. Game 4 ended on a walk-off wild pitch. This championship solidified the Yankees' place at the dawn of an MLB dynasty. 1928, New York Yankees. The Yankees continued their reign by sweeping the Cardinals 4-0, becoming the first team to complete back-to-back World Series sweeps. Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig were unstoppable, hitting 3 and 4 home runs respectively, with Gehrig notching 9 RBIs. The Yankees' pitching staff allowed only 7 total runs across the series. This dominant performance confirmed that by the end of the 1920s, no team could match the might of the Bronx Bombers. It was their 3rd title in just 5 years. 1929, Philadelphia Athletics. Connie Mack rebuilt the Athletics into a championship team and claimed the franchise's first title in the modern era by defeating the Cubs 4-1. Game 4 became legendary when the A's came back from an 8-0 deficit, scoring 10 runs in a single inning, one of the most shocking moments in World Series history. Jimmy Fox and Al Simmons led the offensive charge, while Lefty Grove was instrumental in the bullpen. It was the Athletics' first title since 1913 and signaled a new challenge to the Yankees' supremacy. 1930, Philadelphia Athletics. The A's reinforced their dominance by defeating the Cardinals 4-2. Connie Mack's squad boasted a perfect blend of explosive offense and elite pitching. George Earnshaw and Lefty Grove combined for 3 wins, while Al Simmons hit 364 over the series. The A's clinched the title with a 7-1 victory in Game 6, capping off an exceptional 2-year run. This marked the franchise's 5th World Series championship, tying them with the New York Giants at that point in history. 1931, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals avenged their loss from the previous year by defeating the Philadelphia Athletics 4-3. Pepper Martin was the breakout star, batting .500 and stealing 5 bases, disrupting the A's defense throughout the series. Although the A's still had Jimmy Fox and Lefty Grove, they lacked the sharpness of their 1929 to 1930 championship years. This series marked the end of Connie Mack's second great dynasty, as the Great Depression forced him to sell off many of his star players. It was the Cardinals' second title in franchise history. 1932, New York Yankees. The Yankees swept the Chicago Cubs 4-0 in a series remembered for one of baseball's most iconic moments, Babe Ruth's called shot. In Game 3 at Wrigley Field, Ruth appeared to point to the stands before launching a home run on the next pitch, a moment still debated but immortalized in lore. Lou Gehrig added 3 home runs, and Yankees pitchers limited the Cubs to just 2.5 runs per game. This was New York's 3rd sweep in 6 years, further cementing their dominance. 1933, New York Giants. The Giants captured their first championship under player-manager Bill Terry by defeating the Washington Senators 4-1. Led by Carl Hubbell's overpowering pitching, he won 2 games and allowed just 1 earned run. And offensive leaders Mel Ott and Lefty O'Doul, the Giants controlled the series. The Senators couldn't capitalize on their home field advantage at Griffith Stadium. This was the Giants' last title in New York until 1954. 1934, St. Louis Cardinals. The Gas House Gang Cardinals a rowdy, colorful team full of personality, beat the Detroit Tigers 4-3. Game 7 was legendary. Dizzy Dean pitched a shutout in an 11-0 blowout, while Joe Medwick had to be removed from the game after fans pelted the field with bottles due to his exuberant celebration. Dizzy Dean won 2 games and his brother Paul Dean added 2 more, a rare sibling feat. The team's wild and passionate play earned them fan adoration nationwide. 1935, Detroit Tigers. After several close calls, the Tigers finally won their first World Series title by defeating the Cubs 4-2. Hank Greenberg was injured in Game 2, but Goose Goslin and Charlie Gehringer stepped up. Game 6 ended in thrilling fashion with a walk-off single by Goslin at Navin Field. This was Detroit's first championship and a defining moment for player-manager Mickey Cochran, who was praised for his poise behind the plate and strategic decisions. 1936, New York Yankees. The Yankees launched a new dynasty by beating the New York Giants 4-2 in the first Subway Series since 1923. Rookie Joe DiMaggio had a quiet series, but Lou Gehrig starred with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. The Yankees' offense exploded for 43 runs over 6 games, overwhelming the Giants' pitching. Red Ruffing won 2 games with an ERA under 2.00. This marked the first of 4 consecutive championships for the Yankees. 1937, New York Yankees. The Yankees continued their dominance, defeating the Giants again, this time 4-1. Joe DiMaggio made a bigger impact, batting .346 and leading a powerful offense. Lou Gehrig contributed another 7 RBIs. Pitchers Lefty Gomez and Red Ruffing held the Giants to just 12 runs over the series. The Yankees were widely regarded as the most complete team of the era. 1938, New York Yankees. The Yankees swept the Chicago Cubs 4-0 in a one-sided series. Joe DiMaggio and Bill Dickey led the offense with clutch hitting throughout. The pitching trio of Ruffing, Gomez, and Hadley silenced the Cubs, who managed only 9 total runs. This marked the first time in MLB history a team had won 3 consecutive World Series. 1939, New York Yankees. The Yankees made history with their 4th straight title, sweeping the Cincinnati Reds 4-0. The team played without Lou Gehrig, who retired earlier that year due to ALS, delivering his famous luckiest man alive speech. Joe DiMaggio hit .350 with 6 RBIs, and rookie Charlie Keller added 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. The Yankees capped the series with a walk-off win aided by a Reds defensive error, finishing with a +20 run differential. Their 4-peat remains a record. 1940, Cincinnati Reds. After a heartbreaking loss in 1939, the Reds earned redemption by defeating the Detroit Tigers 4-3. The tightly contested series went the distance, with Paul Derringer winning the decisive Game 7. Bucky Walters contributed 2 victories and even hit a home run, a rare feat for a pitcher. Though their offense wasn't explosive, the Reds capitalized on the Tigers' mistakes in the crucial moments. It was Cincinnati's first title since the controversial 1919 Black Sox series. 1941, New York Yankees. The Yankees defeated the Brooklyn Dodgers 4-1 in the first ever Subway Series between the two teams. Joe DiMaggio and Charlie Keller combined for 10 RBIs to power the offense. Game 4 is remembered for the infamous drop third strike by Dodgers catcher Mickey Owen, which allowed the Yankees to stage a 9th-inning comeback. Red Ruffing and Tiny Bonham led a dominant pitching effort. It was the Yankees' 9th championship. 1942, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals ended the Yankees' winning streak with a 4-1 victory. It was the first time the Yankees had lost a World Series since 1926. St. Louis leaned on its stellar pitching, with Mort Cooper and rookie Johnny Beasley holding the Yankees to just 2 runs per game. A young Stan Musial contributed key RBIs in his rookie season. This marked the Cardinals' 4th title and the beginning of their golden era in the 1940s. 1943, New York Yankees. The Yankees immediately struck back, defeating the Cardinals 4-1 in a World Series heavily impacted by World War II, with many players serving in the military. Veteran stars like Bill Dickey and pitcher Spud Chandler, 2 wins, carried the load. The Cardinals' offense sputtered, unable to break through New York's bullpen. It was the Yankees' 10th championship. 1944, St. Louis Cardinals. In the only all-St. Louis World Series, the Cardinals topped their crosstown Browns 4-2. It was the Browns' first, and only, World Series appearance. Though both teams shared Sportsman's Park, the Cardinals' superior talent and experience prevailed. Marty Marion and Emil Verbin led a balanced lineup, while the pitching staff allowed only 12 total runs. This was St. Louis's fifth title. 1945, Detroit Tigers. The Tigers claimed their second World Series title by beating the Cubs 4-3 in a full 7-game battle. Hal Newhouser won 2 games, including a commanding Game 7 victory, 9-3. Hank Greenberg, back from military service, hit 2 home runs and drove in 7 RBIs. Though the Cubs led 2-1 and 3-2 in the series, they couldn't close it out. This would be their last World Series appearance for 71 years. 1946, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals edged out the Red Sox 4-3 in a tightly contested series, highlighted by Eno Slaughter's mad dash, a daring run from first base on a single in Game 7, catching Boston's outfield flat-footed. Though Boston had league MVP Ted Williams, he struggled, batting just .200. Despite the Red Sox leading much of the series, the Cardinals capitalized when it counted. This marked their 6th championship. 1947, New York Yankees. The Yankees recaptured the crown in a thrilling 7-game battle with the Brooklyn Dodgers. The series featured Al Gianfrido's iconic catch, robbing Joe DiMaggio of a home run. The teams traded wins until New York took Game 7. Rookie Yogi Berra hit his first World Series homer, and Jackie Robinson became the first black player to appear in a World Series, ushering in a new era for MLB. 1948, Cleveland Indians. The Indians defeated the Boston Braves 4-2, earning their second and last 20th century title. Player-manager Lou Boudreau hit 6 RBIs and guided the team with tactical skill. Pitchers Bob Lemon and Gene Bearden anchored the staff, while Larry Doby made history as the first black player to win a World Series in the American League. It was a hallmark season for Cleveland. 1949, New York Yankees. The Yankees returned to dominance, beating the Dodgers 4-1 in a series tighter than the score suggested. Tommy Henrich hit a walk-off home run in Game 1 and remained a clutch performer. The Dodgers faltered defensively in key moments. This was the first title under manager Casey Stengel, who would lead the Yankees through an unprecedented era of success. 1950, New York Yankees. The Yankees swept the Philadelphia Phillies 4-0, though the first 3 games were decided by just 1 run. The Whiz Kids Phillies were talented, but lacked depth. Joe DiMaggio and Gene Woodling came through with timely hits, while pitcher Allie Reynolds threw a shutout in Game 2. This marked the Yankees' 13th title and the beginning of a 5-year championship streak. 1951, New York Yankees. The Yankees topped the New York Giants 4-2 in another all-New York Fall Classic, signaling the end of the Joe DiMaggio era and the rise of rookie Mickey Mantle, who was injured in Game 2. Despite the setback, New York prevailed with balanced offense and strong pitching. Gil McDougald hit a grand slam in Game 5, and Ed Lopat and Vic Raschi shut down the Giants. It was the Yankees' 3rd straight title. 1952, New York Yankees. The Yankees claimed their 4th consecutive championship, defeating the Dodgers 4-3 in a back-and-forth series. Billy Martin emerged as the unsung hero with key hits in 2 crucial games. New York led from start to finish in Game 7 and relied on their deep bullpen to secure the win. This was the first time the Dodgers seriously challenged the Yankees' supremacy. It was New York's 15th World Series title. 1953, New York Yankees. Making history, the Yankees won their 5th consecutive championship by beating the Dodgers 4-2. Mickey Mantle hit 2 home runs, while Yogi Berra and Phil Rizzuto shined on both offense and defense. Though Brooklyn had a loaded lineup featuring Duke Snider and Jackie Robinson, their pitching faltered. This remains the longest World Series winning streak in MLB history. 1954, New York Giants. The Giants stunned the Cleveland Indians with a 4-0 sweep, despite Cleveland posting a record 111 wins in the regular season. Game 1 featured the catch, Willie Mays' iconic over-the-shoulder grab in deep center field. Pinch hitter Dusty Rhodes was the surprise star, belting 2 home runs and driving in 7 RBIs in just 6 at-bats. It was the Giants' first title since 1933, and their last in New York before relocating to San Francisco. 1955, Brooklyn Dodgers. After years of heartbreak against the Yankees, the Dodgers finally broke through, winning their first ever World Series title by defeating their longtime rivals 4-3. Johnny Podres emerged as the hero, winning 2 games, including a shutout in Game 7, and was named the first ever World Series MVP, While Jackie Robinson had a quiet series, stars like Duke Snider and Roy Campanella delivered in big moments. It was Brooklyn's only championship before the franchise moved west. 1956, New York Yankees. The Yankees got their revenge the very next year, defeating the Dodgers 4-3 in one of the most iconic World Series ever. Don Larson threw a perfect game in Game 5, still the only perfect game in World Series history. Mickey Mantle hit 3 home runs and tallied 8 RBIs to power the Yankees to their 17th title. The Dodgers, dominant in 1955, could not repeat their magic. 1957, Milwaukee Braves. The Braves captured their first World Series title by edging out the Yankees 4-3. Hank Aaron crushed 3 home runs, while Eddie Matthews contributed clutch hitting. Pitcher Lou Burdette was the standout, winning 3 games, including a Game 7 shutout. It was a rare World Series loss for the Yankees during their golden era. Milwaukee became the second team to win the series after relocating from Boston. 1958, New York Yankees. The Yankees avenged their 1957 loss by coming back from a 0-2 deficit to defeat the Braves 4-3. The first team to ever win the World Series after trailing by 2 games. Mickey Mantle blasted 3 home runs, and Bob Turley starred with 2 wins and a save over 3 appearances. Game 7 was a decisive 6-2 victory that reaffirmed New York's dominance. It marked the Yankees' 18th championship. 1959, Los Angeles Dodgers. In just their second year after relocating from Brooklyn, the Dodgers won the World Series by defeating the Chicago White Sox 4-2. Larry Sherry earned MVP honors with 2 wins and 2 saves in the series. After losing Game 1, the Dodgers pitching took over, shutting down the Sox's offense. This victory was the first World Series title ever won on the West Coast. 1960, Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates stunned the heavily favored Yankees 4-3 in one of the wildest World Series of all time. While the Yankees won their games in blowout fashion, the Pirates scraped out close victories, culminating in Game 7, a legendary finish. Bill Mazeroski hit a walk-off home run, the first ever to end a World Series. Despite being outscored 55-27 across the series, the Pirates had the last laugh, capturing their first title since 1925. 1961, New York Yankees. The Yankees defeated the Cincinnati Reds 4-1, powered by the historic slugging duo of Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, fresh off their record-setting 61 home run season. Whitey Ford was dominant, winning 2 games without allowing a run, extending his World Series scoreless streak to 33.2 innings. The Reds managed only a single win, taking advantage of rare Yankees errors in Game 2. This marked the Bronx Bombers' 19th championship, capping off their golden era. 1962, New York Yankees. In one of the most tightly contested World Series ever, the Yankees edged the San Francisco Giants 4-3. Game 7 ended dramatically with Bobby Richardson catching a Willie McCovey line drive that could have won the game for the Giants had it been a few inches higher. The total run differential was razor thin, 21-20 in favor of New York. This would be the Yankees' final title until 1977. The Dodgers swept the Yankees 4-0 behind a legendary pitching trio, Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, and Johnny Padres. Koufax was spectacular, winning 2 games with 23 strikeouts and earning series MVP honors. The Yankees' potent lineup was held to just 1.3 runs per game. It was a dominant performance and the first time the Yankees had been swept in the Fall Classic since 1922. 1964, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals beat the Yankees 4-3 in a dramatic showdown that signaled the end of the DiMaggio Mantle era in New York. Bob Gibson was the star, winning games 5 and 7 and racking up 31 strikeouts to earn MVP honors. While the Yankees fought hard, their aging pitching staff couldn't match the Cardinals' firepower. This was St. Louis' first championship since 1946, ushering in a new era of National League strength. 1965, Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers edged the Minnesota Twins 4-3, thanks to the brilliance of Sandy Koufax. After sitting out Game 1 in observance of Yom Kippur, Koufax returned with back-to-back shutouts in Games 5 and 7, totaling 29 strikeouts and only 1 earned run. The tightly contested series came down to Game 7, where Koufax delivered a 2-0 gem. It was the Dodgers' 3rd title since moving to Los Angeles. 1966, Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles stunned the heavily favored Dodgers by sweeping them 4-0, capturing their first ever championship. Baltimore's pitching trio, Jim Palmer, Wally Bunker, and Dave McNally, combined for 33 consecutive shutout innings. Frank Robinson, fresh off a Triple Crown season, hit the lone home run in Game 4 and earned Series MVP honors. It was a shocking and decisive statement win. 1907, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals triumphed over the Boston Red Sox 4-3 in a series defined by Bob Gibson's incredible dominance. 3 wins, a 1.00 ERA, and 26 strikeouts. The Red Sox, riding their impossible dream season, led by Triple Crown winner Carl Yastrzemski, came close but lacked pitching depth. Gibson sealed the series with a 7-2 win in Game 7, securing his second World Series MVP and reaffirming the Cardinals' place atop the NL. 1968, Detroit Tigers. The Tigers staged a remarkable comeback, rallying from a 3-1 series deficit to defeat the Cardinals 4-3. Mickey Lalich delivered a historic performance, winning 3 complete games, including Game 7 against Bob Gibson, a feat not seen since 1909. Though Gibson struck out 35 and had a 1.67 ERA, the Cardinals' offense faltered. It was Detroit's first championship since 1945. 1969, New York Mets. The Miracle Mets stunned the baseball world by defeating the powerhouse Orioles 4-1 in one of the greatest upsets in World Series history. Just 7 years after their founding, the Mets transformed from laughingstock to champions. Tom Seaver and Jerry Koosman anchored a dominant pitching staff, while Cleon Jones and Don Clendenon delivered key hits. Clendenon was named MVP after hitting 3 home runs. The Mets became a symbol of hope and possibility in sports. 1970, Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles returned to the top by beating the Cincinnati Reds 4-1 in the first World Series appearance for the Big Red Machine. Brooks Robinson turned in one of the greatest defensive performances in series history at third base and also hit .429 to win MVP honors. Baltimore scored 29 runs over 5 games, outclassing Cincinnati in all facets. It was the Orioles' second championship and a statement of their dominance in the early 70s. 1971, Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates edged the Baltimore Orioles 4-3 in a hard-fought and meaningful World Series. Roberto Clemente was sensational, batting .414 with clutch hits and brilliant defense, becoming the first Latin-born player to win World Series MVP. Pittsburgh rallied after losing 2 of the first 3 games. Steve Blass won 2 games, including a complete game victory in Game 7. It was the Pirates' first title since 1960. 1972, Oakland Athletics. The A's defeated the Cincinnati Reds 4-3 to kick off a run of 3 consecutive championships. With star Reggie Jackson sidelined by injury, Gene Tennis emerged as the unlikely hero, hitting 4 home runs and driving in 9 runs en route to MVP honors. The pitching staff, including Catfish Hunter, Vita Blue, and Raleigh Fingers, held the Reds to a .209 batting average. This was the franchise's first title since relocating to Oakland. 1973, Oakland Athletics. The A's successfully defended their crown by beating the New York Mets 4-3 in a tense and tightly contested series. 3 games went into extra innings, including 2 11-inning battles. Reggie Jackson returned, but the heroes were Bert Campaneris and the pitching staff. Ken Holtzman and Catfish Hunter helped neutralize the Mets' offense. The A's became the first American League team to repeat as champions since the 1962 Yankees. 1974, Oakland Athletics. The A's completed their historic three-peat by defeating the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-1. Their victory was built on a balanced lineup and a dominant bullpen. Raleigh Fingers earned World Series MVP honors with 2 saves and 1 win. The series was also notable for the A's colorful identity under owner Charlie Finley, sporting flashy uniforms, bold mustaches, and an aggressive style of play. They were the first AL team to three-peat since the Yankees' run from 1949 to 1953. 1975, Cincinnati Reds. After several near misses, the Big Red Machine finally captured the crown by beating the Red Sox 4-3 in one of the greatest World Series ever. Game 6 became legendary thanks to Carlton Fisk's walk-off home run in the 12th inning, an iconic moment in MLB history. But it was the Reds who rallied in Game 7, winning 4-3 with a clutch hit from Joe Morgan. 5 of the 7 games were decided by 1 run. It was Cincinnati's first championship since 1940. 1976, Cincinnati Reds. The Reds dominated the Yankees in a 4-0 sweep, becoming the only team in the divisional era to go undefeated throughout the entire postseason. Johnny Bench was named MVP after hitting 2 home runs and driving in 6 runs. The Reds' powerhouse lineup, featuring Bench, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Ken Griffey Sr., and Dave Concepcion, averaged nearly 7 runs per game. It was the high point of the Big Red Machine's dominance. 1977, New York Yankees. The Yankees reclaimed the title after 15 years, beating the Dodgers 4-2. Reggie Jackson delivered an all-time great performance, hitting 3 home runs on 3 consecutive swings in Game 6, 5 homers total in the series, to earn MVP honors. Manager Billy Martin, known for his fiery temperament, made bold decisions that paid off. This was the Yankees' first title under owner George Steinbrenner and marked the beginning of their modern-era resurgence. The Yankees repeated as champions, again defeating the Dodgers 4-2. Unsung heroes Bucky Dent and Brian Doyle emerged, while Ron Guidry, Louisiana Lightning, anchored the pitching staff with a crucial Game 3 win. Reggie Jackson added 2 more home runs, cementing his status as Mr. October. This marked the Yankees' 22nd championship and their first back-to-back titles since 1961-62. 1979, Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates came back from a 1-3 deficit to beat the Orioles 4-3 in a series defined by heart and unity, epitomized by the team's "We Are Family" slogan. At age 39, Willie Stargell led the charge, hitting .400 with 3 home runs and 7 RBIs, including a decisive homer in Game 7, to earn MVP honors. Pitchers Bert Blyleven and Kent Tekulve played pivotal roles. It was the Pirates' 5th championship and one of the most beloved in team history. 1980, Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies won their first World Series title in franchise history, defeating the Kansas City Royals 4-2 after 97 seasons. NL MVP Mike Schmidt continued his dominance with 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and a World Series MVP trophy. Steve Carlton won 2 games, and closer Tug McGraw secured 2 key saves. It was a long-awaited triumph for Philadelphia, and the franchise's only championship of the 20th century. 1981, Los Angeles Dodgers. In a strike-shortened season, the Dodgers avenged past defeats by beating the Yankees 4-2. After falling behind 0-2, they won 4 straight games. Ron Cey, Pedro Guerrero, and Steve Yeager shared World Series MVP honors, combining for 13 RBIs. Phenomenon Fernando Valenzuela won Game 3 amid the Fernando Mania craze. The Dodgers' pitching dominated late, and the title marked their first since 1965. 1982, St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals defeated the Milwaukee Brewers 4-3 in what was dubbed the Sud Series, as both teams hailed from beer-producing cities. Darrell Porter earned MVP honors for his consistent hitting and strong defensive work behind the plate. The Cardinals' pitching staff was solid throughout, highlighted by Bruce Sutter's clutch save in Game 7. It was St. Louis's first title since 1967 and marked the franchise's resurgence in the 1980s. 1983, Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles bested the Phillies 4-1 behind a balanced and veteran-laden roster. Eddie Murray smashed 2 home runs in Game 5, while second-year player Cal Ripken Jr. delivered steady performances. Catcher Rick Dempsey took home MVP honors with timely hitting and defensive excellence. This marked Baltimore's 3rd World Series title, and, to date, their most recent. 1984, Detroit Tigers. The Tigers capped off a dominant season, beginning 35-5, by defeating the Padres 4-1. Kirk Gibson blasted 2 home runs in Game 5, including a momentum-sealing 3-run shot. Alan Trammell was named MVP after hitting .450 and leading the offense. Ace Jack Morris won 2 games and silenced San Diego's bats. It was Detroit's first championship since 1968. 1985, Kansas City Royals. The Royals staged a comeback from a 1-3 deficit to beat the Cardinals 4-3 in a controversial series. Game 6 became infamous for umpire Don Denkinger's missed call at first base, which allowed the Royals to stay alive and eventually rout St. Louis 11-0 in Game 7. Brett Saberhagen was dominant, earning MVP honors with 2 wins and a 0.50 ERA. It was Kansas City's first ever World Series title. 1986, New York Mets. The Mets triumphed over the Red Sox 4-3 in one of the most legendary World Series ever. Game 6 is iconic. The Mets rallied with 2 outs and nobody on base, ending with Mookie Wilson's dribbler and Bill Buckner's infamous error. Ray Knight was named MVP, while Dwight Gooden and Ron Darling led the rotation. It was the Mets' second championship, following their 1969 Miracle Mets run. 1987, Minnesota Twins. The Twins defeated the Cardinals 4-3 in a series where the home team won every game, a first in World Series history. Kirby Puckett led the offense, and Frank Viola earned MVP honors with 2 wins. The Metrodome provided a massive home field advantage with its deafening noise and artificial turf. It was Minnesota's first title since moving from Washington. 1988, Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers shocked the heavily favored A's 4-1. Game 1 became an instant classic with Kirk Gibson's walk-off home run on a full count, despite being injured in both legs, in his only at-bat of the series. Orel Hershiser dominated, winning 2 games and allowing just 2 earned runs in 18 innings en route to MVP honors. The victory embodied the Dodgers' underdog spirit. 1989, Oakland Athletics. The A's avenged the previous year's loss by sweeping the Giants 4-0 in the Battle of the Bay, a series interrupted by the Loma Prieta earthquake. Dave Stewart won MVP with 2 strong outings, and the offense was powered by Ricky Henderson and Jose Canseco. It was Oakland's first title since 1974, and their last as of today. 1990, Cincinnati Reds. The Reds pulled off a stunning sweep of the powerhouse Oakland A's 4-0. Jose Rijo was lights out, earning MVP honors with 2 wins and holding the A's to a .143 batting average. The bullpen trio known as the Nasty Boys, Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble, and Randy Myers, shut the door throughout the series. It was Cincinnati's first championship since their 1976 Big Red Machine era. 1991, Minnesota Twins. The Twins defeated the Braves 4-3 in what many consider the greatest World Series of all time. Game 6 ended with an 11th inning walk-off home run by Kirby Puckett. Game 7 was even more dramatic. Jack Morris threw 10 shutout innings in a 1-0 win, sealed by Gene Larkin's walk-off single. All 4 of Minnesota's wins came at the deafening Metrodome. It was the Twins' second championship in 4 years. 1992, Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays became the first non-U.S. team to win the World Series, defeating the Braves 4-2. Pat Borders earned MVP honors for his consistent hitting and superb game calling. Dave Winfield delivered a crucial 2-run double in the 11th inning of Game 6 to clinch the title. Despite Atlanta's elite pitching staff, the Braves fell in their second consecutive World Series. It was a historic moment for Canadian baseball. 1993, Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays repeated as champions, beating the Phillies 4-2 in a slugfest-heavy series. Game 4 was a wild 15-14 shootout, one of the highest-scoring World Series games ever. Joe Carter made history with a walk-off 3-run home run in Game 6, one of only 3 to end a World Series. Paul Molitor earned MVP honors, hitting .5000 with 2 homers and 8 RBIs. Toronto became the first team to win back-to-back titles since the Yankees of the early 1960s. 1994, no World Series. After years of dominance in the National League, the Braves finally captured their title by defeating the Cleveland Indians 4-2. Tom Glavine threw 8 shutout innings in Game 6 to seal the championship and earn MVP honors. With a rotation featuring Glavine, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, and closer Mark Wohlers, Atlanta's pitching proved impenetrable. It remains the Braves' only title from their 1990s pitching dynasty. 1996, New York Yankees. The Yankees began a new dynasty by defeating the Braves 4-2, coming back after dropping the first 2 games at home. Jim Leyritz's pivotal 3-run homer in Game 4 swung the momentum. Closer John Wetterland secured 4 saves and 4 wins to claim Series MVP. This was the Yankees' first title in 18 years, and the beginning of Joe Torre's managerial reign. 1997, Florida Marlins. Just 5 years after their founding, the Marlins won their first World Series by edging the Indians 4-3. Game 7 ended in the 11th inning on Edgar Renteria's walk-off single. Livan Hernandez earned MVP honors with 2 wins and clutch pitching under pressure. The Marlins made history as the first wildcard team to win the Fall Classic. 1998, New York Yankees. The Yankees capped off a historic season with 114 regular season wins by sweeping the Padres 4-0. Scott Brosius was named MVP after hitting 2 home runs and delivering in key moments. Including the postseason, the Yankees won 125 games, an MLB record. Their deep, balanced lineup and lockdown bullpen, led by Mariano Rivera, made them nearly unbeatable. 1999, New York Yankees. The Yankees continued their dominance by sweeping the Braves 4-0, securing their 3rd championship in 4 years. Chad Curtis hit a walk-off homer in Game 3, and Mariano Rivera claimed MVP honors with 2 saves and a win. Atlanta's offense was stifled, scoring just 9 runs in the series. The Yankees executed with precision in all aspects of the game. 2000, New York Yankees. The Yankees beat the Mets 4-1 in the first Subway Series since 1956. Derek Jeter earned MVP honors, hitting a leadoff home run in Game 4 and delivering several clutch hits throughout. Game 1 was a 12-inning thriller, won by a walk-off single from Jose Vizcaino. This title was New York's 4th in 5 years, solidifying one of the greatest dynasties in MLB history.